This meeting is being recorded.
Do you know what a Ganjier is? Well, I didn't until a couple of weeks ago. I have a Ganjier here, a trained professional Ganjier, Cindy Cohn, and we're going to speak with her, and she's going to explain about this training that she did to be certified as a Ganjier. This is Eddie with a Mindful Emergence, where Margaret and I offer mindfulness, movement, and breathing practices for your spiritual transformation and healing. A lot of our work is with psychedelics. Today, I am joined by Cindy Cohn, who is a retired musician and artist with a master's degree, who is still showing her photos in juried exhibitions. Currently, she is the vice president of a 501c3 feral cat rescue program. And Cindy would like to open a medical cannabis pharmacy in Greenville, South Carolina, when cannabis becomes legal down there. So thank you so much for joining me today, Cindy, and talking about this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So cannabis is obviously out there. A lot of people are talking about it. And of course, for medical use, it's really taken off. Currently, there are about 38 states and four territories that allow medical cannabis. Tell us, what is a ganjier?
The most exact description would be a sommelier, which is similar to a wine sommelier. We learn methods to taste, smell, visually assess, and also assess the feeling that it gives you by a point system that is similar to the point system in a sommelier in the wine spectator ratings. So everything that you could learn from a type of cannabis has a question in it in the systematic protocol that we use in an app. There's 30 questions and we analyze each flower that we assess by answering different questions like what is the smell, or it asks how well trimmed the bud is, how pungent it smells, how does it feel, is it sticky? And then once you taste it, it asks several questions about the upfront taste, the lingering taste, the feeling that you get from it, and that's how we assess cannabis.
Mhm. So you talk about terpenes?
Yes, the actual assessment, there are terpenes in cannabis, but the actual assessment protocol that we use doesn't ask technical questions. It tries to keep it so anybody could be able to read the results if they're
Oh,
not
okay.
trained in the technical terms. But terpenes do differentiate whether it's a citrus taste or a gassy taste
Mhm.
or a sweet taste. And a lot of the effects are determined by the terpenes.
Right. And different strains have different blends of terpenes.
Yes.
Yeah. And endocannabinoids. Did you get into that? The endocannabinoid system? Do you?
Yes, the training for a Ganjier talks about from the beginning. We learn the history of cannabis, laws, how it evolved, how its use in society evolved, including medical. At one time, the White House garden was required to have cannabis in it for medicinal reasons.
Was this Bill Clinton's presidency by any chance?
No, but Thomas Jefferson and several others, I'm not sure what year they
Uh,
stopped doing that, but in the 1900s, there started to be a pushback against
yeah,
cannabis use.
yeah,
So it happened sometime around there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a whole conversation about why that happened and all the
Right.
undertones, but we
So
won't.
so yes, so to get back to whether we learn about the
Yeah.
endocannabinoid system, we learned that our body was really well designed to process the cannabis plant,
Hmm.
and that's why it's an endocannabinoid system. So it is useful and it merges well with our biology, and it's been used for traditions, medical use, religious use, spiritual. social use for years,
Yeah,
decades, hundreds and thousands of years.
absolutely. Now, I understand you did this training in the, is it the Ganjier? What's the name of the place where you did the training?
Um, well, in the beginning, I'm the first graduating year, 2021, of the Ganjier program, and they used one of the professors' dispensary as the training classroom. First, you have to go through about 11 courses online. And once you pass all 11 courses, then you sign up for the in person training. It's no longer at the dispensary. They actually purchased a piece of property up in Humboldt County, California, and the training is actually done on that property.
And I'm going to put the link to the website in the description for those of you watching so you can go and take a look. And yeah, it's really interesting. And I spent a little bit of time on the website. What got you interested in wanting to do this, Cindy?
In 2018, when the Farm Bill came about and it passed with hemp as being legal in the United States, I started looking into CBD as a use for pain that is chronic, such as I have scoliosis, so it could manage back pain and all kinds of muscle pains when I work out. And I loved using CBD. That was in 2018. So I actually went online to look for medical cannabis certification. And in 2018, I started my training for that. And I got my certification first in medical cannabis. And then I read a lot of articles about recreational and the states that are legal. And I was hoping that by the time I finished my training that South Carolina would have it legal and I would open a medical cannabis pharmacy. But as of now, it's not legal. And I prepared by getting my certification as a Ganjier and the medical cannabis because when they do give licenses for the medical cannabis pharmacy here, they do it by merit and they only give 3 per county. So I want to be as qualified as possible.
Sounds like you are. You're positioning yourself.
Yes. And
Are there,
you have to own an office building to apply for a medical cannabis pharmacy
ah,
license. So I actually do own a medical office building now.
what are the prospects? Any projections on when it might what's the mood in South Carolina?
Well, it's been 10 years that the bill has been, I would say, presented and revised. It is now out of the session as of the end of May. South Carolina's legislative session ends and it begins again in the beginning of January every year. If it doesn't go through the Senate and then the committees and then the House, it starts back at the Senate in January. They sort of take up where they left off as far as editing the bill. It's called the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act. And it gets edited and then voted on, and then it moves to the 3M committee, and then it gets moved into the House. Now, the problem is it's not a high priority to
Hmm.
them. So it is to me. But
It's
they
not.
sit on it until all the pressing issues are resolved, and then they sort of bring it back and revisit the discussion, the amendments, and then the voting. So as you see, it's a long process. And right now, we have to wait till January, and it passed the Senate a few times, but it never made it through the House. It made it into the House, but not through and up to a vote.
So even though this is a dispensary for medical marijuana, you are not trained medically as a ganjier, correct?
Um, Good question, because to have a medical pharmacy here, the only requirement is that you have to have a pharmacist on staff whenever your business hours are open. And then I would manage it. Basically, I have the knowledge, but I don't have the criteria to actually be the only one in the pharmacy.
Right, right. So in your training, and obviously I'm pulling for you, Cindy, a lot
Sure.
of people are, it's obvious the benefits of this plant are so much. And when you start talking about CBD, I have some issues with arthritis, and I've been using this CBD oil. Seems to help,
Yes.
you know?
It's an anti-inflammatory,
Yeah.
and basically, CBD isn't regulated, so that's why it isn't used in a medical
Hmm.
setting. Um, THC products have to be regulated, and that's why we have to wait for the bill to pass.
Right, right. And we should also just mention briefly for people who are maybe not really aware, they might, because I'm in North Carolina, and there's probably 15 dispensaries for hemp in Asheville. So there might be people thinking, wait a minute, Cindy wants to open medical dispensary, but there's all these dispensaries selling cannabis. That's because of the Farm Bill and it's THCA, which,
Well, it's from a hemp plant.
right,
So THCA just means that it isn't decarboxylated. So
right.
basically, the, there's a lot of people using different terms that are not THC as a loophole to be able to sell it. And
Hmm.
I'll just put that right out there. So
Yes.
by adding the A to it, THC always is THCA when it hasn't been combusted
Hmm.
or digested. And it basically can be sold from the hemp plant as long as, well, see, I don't know North Carolina law, but South Carolina law, it can't be more than 0.3%.
Same, same
Okay,
here. Yeah. That might be a federal stipulation.
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What surprised you most? Was there something during the training that you learned you went, oh my God, I didn't realize that?
Um,
Or
hmm.
just,
I don't know if
wow, that's
there's
great.
the one thing, and this really isn't the training, but the one thing that was great is everybody kept in touch with each other, and we're all really pushing for each other and supportive of each other. The teachers are very supportive. They're the best in the industry. They'll have one teacher for each specialty. So when we have the training online, as I mentioned, there's about 11 courses. Each teacher does a video and it's part of our training online. So we actually hear an interview with a teacher that is a specialist in, let's say, um, growing, or a specialist in planting or soil, and maybe certain processing. And each teacher has its own expertise. And then we get to know them all, and we have connections all around the world.
Hmm.
Basically, people in the Ganjier program were not just from this country. We met students from Europe and other places, and they all keep in touch.
So these other people that you stay in contact with who also completed the program as a Ganjier, um, are most of them wanting to open dispensaries, or were some of them just like, hey, I just want to learn more about this plant?
I'm probably the outlier that I'm not in a legal state. So most of the people that are in the Ganjier program are in a state where it's already legal, and they are either growing, selling, using, it could be anything.
Hmm.
But where I am, it's not legal.
Right.
And so I don't have the same kind of connections. They will help each other out more from a business standpoint. I just like the social connections, and we go to different cannabis conventions, and we meet, and we have like an after party, and everybody just tells what their updates are in their life.
Mm. That sounds wonderful.
Yep. It's a
You know, we
community.
need we need these alternatives to conventional medical model that's just not working in many cases. I just, Captain Obvious, right? Let's
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
So,
We all hope it.
anything that I should have asked you that I didn't? Any question you
Um,
would have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Well, no, we've touched upon the Ganjier website where anybody could go on there. there's a program that is less extreme as far as, the expense and the knowledge than a certified Ganjier. You could be, I'm not sure the exact name because it actually started after I graduated, but there are different levels where if you don't want to be certified, you could just take the online course
Yeah.
and be just like a trained Ganjier, you know, um, apprentice kind of. And I don't even know if that's the right word, so don't quote me.
Right.
But basically, you don't have to go through the full certification. The full certification's around $3,000, and the um, knowledge online is a much less cost.
Well, I was on the website this morning. They have one offering for
Yeah,
$299.
that's the one that has another name that I couldn't
Right.
remember.
Kind of an entry level basic.
Entry level, yes.
And that caught my eye. I might, because I
Yeah.
can always learn more.
Yeah, that doesn't include going to the Humboldt location.
Right,
So
right.
that's online. And basically, when I trained for my medical cannabis, it was only offered as an online course. So it is very worthwhile to do that,
Hmm.
even if it's just an online.
Okay. So we'll just clarify here. You're not representing that company. You're not getting paid to do this. You're just sharing your experience, letting people know if they want to look into it. This is what you gain from it, and they can
Yes.
certainly go and look at it and contact those folks. And again, I'll put the link in the description so people can go and look at the website and decide.
Yes. I'm not a salesperson,
Right.
but everybody who's gone through the program got so much out of it that I just felt it was worth
Sure.
sharing.
Well, when I met you a couple of weeks ago, you said you were a Ganjier, and I went, "Wow, that's cool. What is that?" I mean, I kind of knew, but it's like, wow. And that's why I said, "Hey, I want to do a video because there's probably a lot of people out there that are going, ooh, I want to know more about this." And now we can tell them.
Yep.
Yep. Well, Cindy, I appreciate it so much. I know you're a busy woman, and I really thank you for taking this time and sharing this information with us. For those of you who watched the video, thank you for watching. If you have comments, please drop them in the comments section. If you like the video, we always love it when people give us the thumbs up. And of course, you want more content like this, you certainly want to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. And if you have a comment that you want to pass along to Cindy, just drop it in the comments section and I'll email it to her. And then you're on your own from there. But at least she'll know your comments as well. So thank you again, Cindy. Thank you for watching, everyone. And we'll see you next video.